Hello, Namaskar, and welcome to the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. The heartbeat of elections in India throbs not in the weak hearted, but in men and women of iron will. It certainly doesn't beat in the heart of Lachin's Delhi or the Khan Market gang, as it is called, because these people are very good at analyzing, writing opinion pieces, appearing on television, giving their opinion, giving their advice. They're very good at all that. But the din of elections, the way elections are fought on the ground or on ground zero, is a totally different ballgame. Until now, one has been sensing that the elections, the real issue of the elections had not been emerging. The first phase of polling also was testimony to the fact that the people were not very enthused. But suddenly, in the last 2 days, the Prime Minister has made a speech where he has put center stage a particular issue regarding what has been written in the Congress manifesto and also connected with the minority, the main minority in the country, that is the Muslims. This issue has become center stage. It has become the real issue of the elections. Until now, if we have been fooling ourselves that elections in India are only about poll promises, manifesto promises, developmental agenda, maybe a little bit about foreign policy, no, it is not about that. It is really about emotion. It is about emotional issues. And the Prime Minister struck a chord 2 days back with a real emotional pitch, and he brought center stage the real issue of the 2024 elections. I'll be talking of this particular issue in greater detail. I've analyzed this speech of the Prime Minister where he said that the Congress poll promise of redistributing wealth in the country and then giving off that wealth to people they prefer, the people they like, the kind of people they like. He referred to minorities, he referred to the Muslim community particularly. He even used words like that the Mangal Sutra, the gold jewelry of women would be taken away by the Congress party, properties would be taken over. So a pretty stark scenario was painted by the Prime Minister. And to my mind, this is the main issue of the elections, and we need to discuss this in a little detail. I will do that towards the end of this episode. But first, I will take a look at this issue itself, which has become the centerpiece, the main issue of the 2024 elections. But before I do that, I want to talk about the timing of it. The timing of it is very, very important. See, at this point in time, the first phase of elections has over. The first round of elections has already concluded. And people, the voting percentage, people who have voted has not been very high. The enthusiasm has perhaps been lacking in some parts of the country. So that we have to remember that context in mind. Now, there are various people who are analyzing this particular trend, that it could have happened because some people say that the BJP core supporters did not turn up. Others say that the Muslim community was not very enthused this time. We don't know the truth. The truth is, of course, locked up in the ballot boxes, and we'll know that on the 4th of June. But please remember the timing of it. And the other timing which we have to take into cognizance is that the Aam Aadmi Party is in diabetic shock. I'm using a pun, of course. We all know the controversy about the diabetes and insulin and Mr. Kejriwal. But these two factors have to be kept into mind. And then this speech of the Prime Minister on the cusp of the second round of voting. Why was this particular speech made? What is really this issue? We need to discuss and take a closer look at that. Now, how do we take a closer look at this particular issue? To do that, in a very brief manner, I will try and explain to you what does the Congress stand for, what does the BJP really stand for, and emerging out of that or distilling out of that this particular core issue, why does it matter so much? So very simply, what does the Congress really stand for? And the Congress can keep pretending and keep on saying that they stand for all communities or whatever, but we now know, And it has proven beyond fact that there are more and more, increasingly more and more, the Congress stands for special interest groups, for vote banks. They stand for a very hard left economic vision of the country. They stand for a very hard left also, not only an economic agenda, but also the security agenda of the country. They are not particularly concerned so much about the nationalistic aspirations of the ordinary Indian. The Congress agenda, to my mind, is quite divisive in a very strange way, even though they keep accusing the BJP of a communal divisive agenda. It's an agenda which is splittist, which is based on, as I keep saying, on caste surveys, on religious minorities. That kind of rhetoric actually emerges more from the Congress party than from the BJP. So this, in a nutshell, is what the Congress at the moment stands for. And finally, do they really stand for the aspirations of the majority community of the country? And the answer is very simple. I think we all know it. Not particularly. They don't say it in so many words, but the civilizational aspirations of the majority community, the concerns of the majority company, these are not finding any kind of preference in the Congress way of thinking, in their manifestos, and especially in what their main leader, that is Rahul Gandhi, is saying to the public. So that is what the Congress stands for. The BJP, in very simply to my mind, even today, despite this particular speech of the Prime Minister, and I'll analyze the speech a little later, does stand for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And I'm not saying this because I'm some kind of a BJP supporter, nothing of that sort. I'm very neutral in these matters. But I do believe that they have this, they treat all communities fairly. And even the speech of this Prime Minister on the Muslim community is because they treat the Muslims as being on the same level as Hindus or Sikhs or Jains or Buddhists. That is why this particular speech has been made, and I will explain that a little later. So they stand for really for the developmental welfare of all communities in a nutshell, but they're also not shy of the fact that the majority community, they have certain civilizational aspirations, and they are not shy to articulate those particular aspirations. That comes out in the rhetoric of the BJP leaders, especially the Prime Minister. They're making no bones about the fact, and he's very proud of the fact that he belongs to the majority community, to the Hindu community, which does not mean that he derides other community or he looks down upon them, nothing of that sort. So that, in a nutshell, is what the BJP stands for. And now let's come to this main issue. This main issue, again, I'll reiterate, it was a speech of the Prime Minister where he said that in the Congress manifesto, they have promised to redistribute wealth of the people of India to people of their liking. He meant the minority community. He actually named the Muslim community. And to infiltrators. He named that. But before we analyze these words in a little more detail, let's paint an image. Let me paint you an image in your mind. Assuming by some kind of miracle, the Congress gets 2/3 majority and it comes into power in the 2024 elections. And true to their word, then they start implementing their promise, their main pole plank, I would say, of redistributing wealth in the country. What does it mean? What does it entail? And I like to paint a picture for you. Supposing somebody like me, somebody like you, people who are listening, you own a house, maybe you own a scooter, you own a car or a bicycle, you own some little bit of jewelry, for instance, or you have some assets, and the government swoops down and takes it over, confiscates your jewelry, closes your bank accounts, and walks away with your property. How will you feel and how will you react to it? I'm not too sure if the Congress party has even figured out the implications of this poll, of this manifesto promise. It is not a radical idea which they are suggesting. It is an idea which is, to my mind, soaked in blood. There'll be literally blood on the streets and riots in the country all over. Because why will people like me, hard-working people like you and me who pay taxes, who have worked all our life to build whatever assets we have, we will allow the government to just swoop down from nowhere and take over our assets and start redistributing those assets. It does not matter whether they redistribute it to the Muslim community or to the Dalit community or to any other community. That's not the point. But the point is, on what basis, on what constitutional law, on what, just because of a poll promise, you will come down and you will take over our assets. Will we allow it? We will not allow it. That is the central issue of the 2024 elections. And when I also read for the first time this particular poll promise of the Congress party, I was stunned and I was shocked. But I was equally surprised because for quite a few weeks, nobody was talking about it. All kinds of other issues were in the election news, but nobody was talking about it. And I have to give it to the Prime Minister. He is a man who chooses his moment, who chooses timing. For him is all. Of course, he had understood the implication of this particular poll promise, but he kept quiet about it. And now, as I said, the timing of it, when the first phase is over and when the Aam Aadmi Party is in diabetic shock and the new, and maybe only 3 or 4 days are left now for the second round of voting, he has come up with this issue and talked about this issue and brought it bang in the center stage, right in the middle of the elections, and just become the main issue of the elections, and rightly so. So, horrifying, a stunning picture, if ever such a idea were to be realized in India, if ever such a poll promise were to be kept, there would be mayhem in the country on the streets. Because which right-thinking person would allow his or her property to be taken over by the government? And it does not matter whether he's talking, whether the Congress party is talking of the underprivileged or the poor. Sorry. Even assuming, and this has not been specified in the poll manifesto, even if they are talking of the 1% of the country, the Adanis and the Ambanis and the Tatas and the Birlas and the industrial houses of the country, what right do they have to even take away their assets to redistribute them? We did not sign up for this. We were not born into a fascist, communist, into a kind of a Pol Pot kind of regime where you can forcibly do things. We were born, all of us, as citizens of a democratic country. And on what right can the government take away our assets? Even if it is the 1%. Because these rich people, whether we like it or not, and the fact is this, they have earned their riches. And this is very well for Mr. Rahul Gandhi to say, oh, they're all thieves and corrupt and this and that. But the fact is they have worked really hard to get where they are. And if I compare in terms of hard work, in terms of qualifications of Mr. Rahul Gandhi with some of these people, what is the comparison? Here is a man who is not properly educated, I'm sorry to say that. Here is a man who probably hasn't worked hard one day in his life. He keeps traveling all over the world. Here's a man who is like giving gyan at the drop of his hat on things which he doesn't probably even understand completely. And then you come up with an agenda. And why am I spending so much time talking about this is because please remember, even today, the Congress party commands almost 20% of the vote share in the country. It is a very important party. We cannot just, it is not some fly-by-night operator or some guy who, or some party which has made some kind of an outlandish promise and we can forget about it. This is a serious party. It is a main opposition party of the country. And for them to make a shocking promise like this, especially by Mr. Rahul Gandhi, on what basis, what are your credentials to make this promise? So that is the real agenda we have to keep in mind. Now, also understand a few things out here. The BJP has always been accused of having a divisive communal agenda, of targeting The phrase they keep using is wolf whistling the Muslim community. I don't agree with that at all. And I'll tell you why. The real communal casteist, especially the casted agenda, for some strange reason, and very ironically, I think, has always been spelt out, has always been articulated by the Congress party. At the drop of the hat, whether it is in various forums, whether it is in speeches to the public, whether it is in meeting of so-called intellectuals, whether here in India or in abroad, which Mr. Rahul Gandhi keeps doing. He's very fond of doing all that. Look at the intent and the content of what he's saying. He is basically talking of a caste surveys. What are caste surveys? Caste surveys mean you want to literally break it down, and then based on those of various castes of the various people, and based on those caste surveys, then you will decide in your high-minded elitist manner that, oh, we will give resources to this person or to that person. And of course it mirrors the saying of Mr. Manmohan Singh, the Prime Minister, who said that the first right of the country's resources will go to the minority communities, to the Muslim community. So caste surveys, he keeps talking of the caste survey. He keeps talking of minority appeasement and the new things which he has started talking about, the North-South divide, that the South is totally unconnected with the country, almost giving rise to the suggestion as if there is almost like an encouragement for the South to break away from the union of India. He keeps talking of the inequitable distribution of wealth. You look at all the pet themes of the Congress party and they are all divisive. They are all focused on pitting caste against caste, community against community, religion against religion, and then you sugarcoat or couch the entire package by saying, oh, we are very secular. We stand for all communities. No, your real rhetoric is that you are always talking of caste, community, and religion. I haven't actually heard anything so much about the developmental vision of the Congress party. The only developmental vision which they have in mind is to grab the wealth of hard-working, honest citizens like you and me, redistribute them in the manner and the fashion they think is best, maybe keep a lot of it for themselves also. And that's the economic vision of the Congress party, and that is why it is a real shocker. And if you think that maybe I'm exaggerating, give me a moment. I'm going to read to you from the excerpts from a particular speech of Rahul Gandhi, which he made during the Chhattisgarh election. I think it was in a place called Ambikapur in 2024 when the Chhattisgarh elections were being held, assembly elections. So give me a moment. I will read that particular line to you, and it just blew my mind. And I'm so surprised that why didn't people talk too much about it? But, well, and I'm quoting from the ANI, from the news agency ANI. So this was in the Chhattisgarh elections in Ambikapur, as I said. And Rahul Gandhi says, and he's saying this in the speech, you can check this on YouTube. You can check this particular speech on YouTube. He says, BJP, and I'm quoting ANI here, and this is Rahul Gandhi who's speaking. BJP calls you Vanvasi. We call you Adivasi. BJP snatches away your rights. We provide you with your rights. We hug you. And BJP urinates on you. BJP leaders urinate on you and make videos of it viral so that the entire country watches it. I have to confess, at first when I did not listen to, for some reason I missed the speech when he delivered the speech at that particular time in 2023. Later somebody told me about it. When that person told me about it, I didn't believe it. I said, no, it's not possible. Even for Rahul Gandhi, nobody uses words like urinate and, Vanvasi and this and that. He said, no, please go and check this speech. And I actually checked this speech on YouTube. It exists. And this paraphrasing by ANI is absolutely correct. It is shocking. The main opposition person in the country is talking of, and I don't want to use the word again and again, but he's talking of urination. And it proves my point that it is the Congress party which again and again keeps up bringing divisive communal casteist agendas. Now, who is talking of Vanvasi, Adivasi, and the so-called definitions which he is giving? It's the Congress party. Have you ever heard the BJP ever indulging in rhetoric like this? That's the point we need to remember. Number two, the Congress party has always, under Rahul Gandhi, he has always been in a very, sometimes subtle and sometimes in a very direct manner, he has been almost goading the people. There's a word called goading in the English language. That means pushing the people. That why are you not protesting on the streets? Why you're not shouting your rights are being taken away? Go to the streets, spread mayhem on the streets, fight for your rights. The sense I get is that this is not a political entity any longer. This is like some kind of a Maoist outfit operating out of the jungles of Jharkhand or in Chhattisgarh. That's the sense which I get. They do these kind of things. You know, they establish their rule over villages, and then they kind of establish their own method of governance or rule and law and order. This is what exactly the Congress party is doing. It doesn't seem like this is the Congress party we have all known, we have grown up with over the years. I would say a centrist party, a middle of the road party. It has become an extremely virulent, hard left, Maoist, thuggery kind of a place where there is almost like, I'm not saying that they have directly given a call to arms, I'm not certainly suggesting that, but there is almost this incitement to a call to arms. There is this communal divisive agenda, pitting of caste against caste, community against community in the name of these caste surveys. And then the third factor, look at the foul language is now flourishing. Foul language spoken not only by Mr. Gandhi, but foul language spoken by all the spokesperson of the Congress party, especially Supriya Srinath, as we know, and so many of their people. They open their mouths, they are abusing people left, right, and center. And there is a culture of using foul language and degradation of women. Have you forgotten about the remarks Mr. Rahul Gandhi made about Aishwarya Rai? How can you make remarks about, forget about that, Aishwarya Rai, of course, is of course a very well-known celebrity, but even about ordinary, a simple woman. Who gave you that right to make those remarks? Why are we not asking these questions more forcefully? Every kind of vicious, every kind of almost horrible, things connected with polity are now being articulated by the Congress party, and it is just leaves you stunned. Surjewala, the remarks which he made on Hema Malini ji. Look at the age of the lady, such a graceful lady and outstanding actress and dancer. And then the same party, the same defenders of that party, the same intellectuals of the party turn and the defenders are not only in India, but they're all over the world, in academia, in the media, in the world. And they all said, oh, the poor opposition, they are all being jailed and imprisoned. Democracy is on thin ice in India. But if you see the reality, this is the reality which comes out. And I think in response to all this, the Prime Minister chose his moment. Timing was all for him. He chose the right time to make the speech. And towards the end now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this particular speech. What did he really mean in that speech? Was he really buttonholing the Muslim community? Was he really casting aspersions on them, as the opposition has been alleging, as all the think tanks and all the academia, all the intellectuals and the media icons and barons in India and abroad, they have all been saying that. But has he really done that? And I'll give you the answer here. Redistribution, as I have redefined, as I have now defined rather for you, is the central issue of the 2024 elections. This is the real election. It is not so much that we will become a $5 trillion economy and all that. That is something we are on the path, and hopefully we will achieve all those shapes. And the rise of India cannot be stopped. I am not even concerned so much about that. Developmental agenda will continue. Jobs, employment, these are of course major issues, but that is a process which will continue. But the real emotional issue, and I'm again referring to emotion, which I said in the beginning of the podcast, the real emotional connect or the disconnect for some people of these elections is the redistribution of wealth, which is to my mind a very, very serious issue. And the imagery which I painted for you, that if ever it were to be implemented, there would be the country would be chaotic. It would, everything would probably literally go up in flames if something like that were to be implemented. The Prime Minister had to respond to that, and he has responded. And what has he said? And what has the Congress Party said in the manifesto? The Congress Party has, as I said, talked about redistribution. They have, of course, not used the word Muslim out there. But the fact is, you did not specify any community, and therefore, since this is your main pole plank, then the other side has the full right to interpret which particular community or groups or interests you're talking about. Because you're not going to redistribute wealth out of the air. You will redistribute wealth from specific people and give it to other specific people. And since you have not specified that, absolutely it's fair. It is open season for the Prime Minister to assume that it be given to the minority community, to the Muslim community, and he is not dog whistling the Muslim community. He's basing this on past empirical evidence, because the ex-Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, he had categorically said that the first resources of the country will go to the Muslims. So you're adding 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, it is not 5, it is not 3, it is 4, and that is what the Prime Minister has done. And number 2, and that is even more important, a lot of people are alleging that the word infiltrator, the Prime Minister, he used the Hindi word ghuspetia. Infiltrators, he probably meant the Muslim community of India. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all. The Prime Minister was specifically referring to whether they are Hindus or Muslim infiltrators from countries like Bangladesh. West Bengal is full of people who have infiltrated from that side into our country. He's talking about that. The resources will probably go to such people. He's referring to that, and there's infiltration again from the in the northeastern states, from Myanmar and from so many other places. The Rohingyas, for instance, they're also infiltrators. This is what the Prime Minister was referring to. So, in a nutshell, in short, the Prime Minister is not dog whistling the Muslim community. He is straight away, in the direct manner which he is known for, he's saying that, guys, all communities for me are equal. And what I certainly don't want, because today in a speech in the morning, he made a very interesting but a very argument which is in line with this particular theme only, that previously the Congress Party was trying to take a chunk of the reservation quota of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and give it again to the Muslim community. And this is correct. We can check our facts, we can check empirical evidence, it's all there. The Congress Party has been trying to do that in a couple of states in the country, and they failed, especially in the state of Karnataka. So the Prime Minister is not just speaking in thin air, or he's like making all this up as he's going along. There are hard empirical data to back him up. And yes, we have come to this point when sometimes we have to address issues directly. You can't just keep vaguely talking of things. You have to state facts on the ground. You cannot, as they say, as the saying goes, rob Peter and pay Paul. You can't do that. This is what the Prime Minister is saying, that in my vision, all communities are equal. And that is what he meant by when it will be given to the Muslim community. He is not criticizing the Muslim community. He's criticizing the Congress party for doing that. He's only stating facts that this is what they want to do because they want to get the votes of the Muslim community. So literally, redistribution of wealth, take out chunks of wealth from people you don't like, or from communities or sections of people or classes of people you don't like, and give it to the people from whom you might like or not, but you want their vote in return. That is what the whole game is all about. The viciousness and the short-sightedness and the absolute dangerous edge to this particular line of thinking has actually been exposed by the Prime Minister. And that's why I'm saying that this issue has now become center stage of the 2024 election. This issue is not going to go away in a hurry. We all know what now the Congress is defined by. We know what the BJP is talking about. Yes, we can keep glossing over the truth and keep saying that the BJP is a communal divisive party, but the truth, when you scratch the surface and go and look beneath the surface, then the real truth emerges. And the real truth is that redistribution of wealth is an incendiary idea, an idea that can actually set the country aflame. We have to be very careful of this particular idea. And if the Prime Minister is pointing a finger at that and cautioning us, then he has every right to do so. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA Show. I hope you really enjoyed this particular episode. You like my show, please do subscribe to it. Subscription is very simple. There's this red button on your screen. Press it and you can subscribe. Subscription is completely free, as I said. And I promise you, I'll keep bringing you a different, a very interesting interpretation of all the hot button issues of the day. Goodbye and cheers from my end.